Organizations, all four of them, started having meetings that something to take the place of what had happened during the Defiance campaign was needed. And they started having meetings, and eventually it was decided that there would be this very great meeting at Cliptown in order to put up a charter of what it is that the people who wanted the end of apartheid really were looking for. And there was a lot of work, and eventually it was decided that all the organizations would come together at Cliptown. Some of the leaders, like Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, and others, had been banned after the Defiance campaign from taking part in gatherings. They did take place in secret meetings with the organizations that were openly organizing it. And there was input from everyone. And the idea was that there would be pieces of paper signed by people throughout the country, what it is that you want to change in South Africa. And people took that very seriously. They started gathering, and there was this massive meeting with thousands of people present, and the pieces of paper were taken and they were put together, and one of the most competent of the gatherers of the information was Rusty Bernstein. He was, even though an architect, he would have been a very good writer and a lawyer and everything else. And Joseph Slovo, who was actually banned, but men and women, senior school children took part, and all these demands were put together at a function, which was raided by the police, and they took away a lot of the material, and they took the names of people. Eventually, the Freedom Charter was published. After it was published, it didn't go down well with the government, and they, in 1956, arrested everybody that had anything to do with it in charge of treason. And they charged 156 of the people that had attended in a leadership capacity, and those are the people who were the accused in the treason trial, in which Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Joe Slovo, Dumanokwe, everybody that was an active participant in the drafting of the Freedom Charter was arrested and charged with treason. The allegation was that it was a communist document in order to organize people to overthrow the government by violence, and that was why they were charged with treason. You know that the people that were arrested on the charge of treason were all acquitted at the end after 4.5, 5 years, and that the court dismissed the allegation of the prosecution that it was a communist document calling for the end of democracy and building a communist state. That was rejected, and eventually the 3 judges acquitted everybody. And eventually, when we started, even before 1990, we formed Lawyers for Human Rights. We thought that come what may, change would come, and that we should actually start working on the Constitution. We together with other lawyers, Arthur Chaskelson, John Dugard, who was a professor, and other lawyers, we started drawing a draft constitution for democratic South Africa. We naturally went to the Freedom Charter and picked up what those demands were. We paraphrased them. We were guided by its principles, and as you know, the draft constitution was completed, containing some of the fundamental rights that are enshrined in the Freedom Charter, about freedom, about the equality and the use of land, and we were guided by those principles, which were generally, with some modifications, adopted in the interim constitution, which was completed, and the parliamentary elections were arranged, and 400 members of parliament were to be elected, and there were. Many of the provisions of the Constitution, some of which were based in the Freedom Charter, have been partly achieved. Unfortunately, there are some of the things that are called for in the Freedom Charter and in the Constitution that we do not have achieved. The equal distribution of land is one of them. Proper education is another, and we haven't reached the level that we should have reached, even though there have been fundamental rights that have been achieved. But I do not agree with those who say that nothing has changed. Much has changed. It doesn't mean that we have to stop there. We have to have regard to what the Freedom Charter says, what the Constitution says, what the courts say about the meaning of the rights that we are enjoying all that we expect to enjoy more fully, and I have faith in the majority of the people in South Africa who, I think, espouse freedom of expression, equality, the absence of poverty. And we should really not cross our arms and say, oh, we haven't achieved something we wanted to achieve. But rather we should find ways and means of acquiring what we have not yet acquired that was expected of those 400 members of Parliament. There are things in the Freedom Charter and in the Constitution which have not been achieved. But this does not mean that we must throw our arms and say, oh, they have not been achieved. We should really take steps, pressurize those in government at all levels as to what is expected, put an end to corruption, put an end to non-useful non-useful behavior. We don't have to have Mercedes-Benz motor cars and palatial homes and not provide for the housing of people to have a roof over their head and the essential facilities of the home. We should really try and persuade ourselves, the government, those who seek office, remind them of what was expected of us, or them, or both of us, in order to really achieve the egalitarian society where equality is there. There can't be absolute equality. That's part of life. But we have uneducated people, no fault of their own. We have hungry people, no fault of their own. We have people who do not see a future for themselves, and they require encouragement. And we have to accelerate the pace at which the fundamental changes that were called for in the Freedom Charter and are called for in the Constitution, in order to say, yes, freedom